A Vort from the Rebbe on this week's Parshas Teruma. In Parshas Teruma, the Pasuk says, "V'hakimeisa es hamishkon kemishpotei asher horeisa bahor." You shall put up the mishkan as you're supposed to, as the mishpat is, that you were shown on the mountain. Here the Pasuk mentions that where were you shown by the Eibishter how to make the mishkan? Shown on the mountain, which means Har Sinai. And the question is, why is it important to mention where you were shown? The main thing you should say, you put up the mishkan as you're supposed to, the way you were told, the way you were shown. Why is it important to mention that it was on the mountain? Actually, we find another pasuk, which is a similar pasuk. And that pasuk is speaking specifically by the menorah. And the pasuk says, by the menorah, a similar thing. You should look and see the way the shape is supposed to be as you were shown on the mountain. So it again says the word on the mountain. Why is it important to mention it to Torah that Abisha said, as you were shown on the mountain? And the Rebbe explains, obviously the mountain means Har Sinai. And what the Pasuk is trying to say, that the Mishkan is a hemshech, a continuation of Har Sinai, of Matan Torah. What was Matan Torah? Matan Torah was a time when there was Gilui Elokus in the world. It was a great godly revelation to the world. But that revelation was temporary. It was only for a time being. It wasn't permanent. It didn't stay. And what the Eibishter wanted is that Gilui that came down by the Har Sinai, by Matan Torah, should be channeled and come down in such a way that it should be here and stay here in a permanent way. And that's why he mentioned that the Mishkan you should put up as you were shown on the mountain. That means that Har Sinai is the beginning, and this is the continuation of Har Sinai. And especially is it mentioned by the menorah, because the whole purpose of the menorah was to bring the light into the world. It says in the Chazal that why did the Eibishter want a menorah? Leibel tzorech, Hashem doesn't need light, and it's only to bring the light out to the world. So the menorah especially is to bring godly light into the world. So specifically by the menorah it says that the way to make the menorah, like you were shown on the mountain, because it comes from the mountain. Now the reason by the mountain, which means Har Sinai, it was only temporary, is because it came milamaylo. Using the terminology of Chassidus, it was a gilui milamaylo lamato. Hashem revealed himself. It wasn't that the Yidden worked on it to get to that. They did certain things a little bit, it says. But the main thing was a gilui milamaylo. As we find by Yitzias Mitzrayim, when they went out of Mitzrayim, it says, Niglu aleim melech malchi amlochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Golam. Hashem revealed himself to them. Yitzias Mitzrayim, we know, was the preparation at the beginning of Matan Torah. It was a gilui milamaylo. When something comes from above, but it's not from within the person, as long as it's there, it lasts, and then when it goes away, it wears off. But if something comes from within the people, then it penetrates in the person, so then it stays longer, it stays for a long time. It's a permanent thing. So the gilui of Har Sinai, since it came milamaylo, was a temporary thing. And the Eibishter wanted that this should come down in a way that it should be here permanently and change and have an effect on the world. He said, now I want you to do something. You do something about it. You make the Mishkan. You give donations to the Mishkan. You make the Mishkan. So that'll come within you. And now whatever happened by the Har, which means by Hasim Matan Torah, will now be continuing in a permanent way. Which answers another question. The Rebbe asks a question, why does the Parshas Teruma start with Hashem saying to give donations? And then he says, make for me a Mikdash. Wouldn't it make more sense he should first say, I want you to make a Mishkan, and then say, in order to make a Mishkan, you got to have material, so give donations. He says, first give donations, and then he says, make for me a Mikdash. So the Rebbe answers, because first there was Matan Torah. What the Eibishter wanted, that Matan Torah by Har Sinai should continue, that Gilui should continue, but you should do something about it, then it'll be permanent, not temporary. So right after, when he's talking about Matan Torah, especially the end of Parshas Mishpatim, talks about Matan Torah. Now he says, now do something. So the first thing, before he even says, make a mikdash, he says, you bring the donations. It'll come from within you. And that'll continue the Gilui of Matan Torah, because you will be doing it. And then that'll be the mikdash that David wants. So he first said, you give, and then make a mikdash. So we'll understand. So he's explaining and the reason why he wants the Mishkan, the Beis HaMikdash, etc., etc. And this is the reason why by the Mishkan Bechlal, and especially by the menorah, the Pasuk stresses you should do it as you were shown on the mountain, to stress that this is a continuation of Har Sinai.